When Shaun King calls out a franchise for sabotaging player development, it lands differently, especially when the quarterback involved is Shedeur Sanders. SS interview. King's critique of the Browns hits hard because it's not just about who's starting. It's about a toxic environment that stifles growth. He points to the team's refusal to alternate starts between Sanders and Gabriel as a deliberate tactic that denies Sanders a chance to prove himself, traps him in an unfair narrative, and sends a chilling message about how talent is treated in Cleveland.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
King sees it as an institutional failure to prioritize development over internal politics. DG NFL match photos, in his view, the Browns are stuck in a loop of bad decisions fueled by insecurity. Instead of letting players earn their spots, they're propping up weaker talent to save face. Sanders, caught in the crossfire, might actually be lucky in the long run. As the situation deteriorates, King believes the eventual collapse could give Sanders a clean slate, away from the politics, pressure, and dysfunction currently smothering his opportunity. SK speaking, it's one thing to make a bad draft pick. It's another to ruin your entire locker room trying to prove you didn't. Right now, that's the exact position the Cleveland Browns are in, and Shaun King is not letting them get away with it. His criticism? Brutal, direct, and, frankly, overdue. King's not mincing words. He's calling out what he sees as deliberate sabotage of Shedeur Sanders' NFL future at the hands of an organization obsessed with saving face. He's pointing the finger directly at head coach Kevin Stefanski and the front office, accusing them of protecting Dillon Gabriel at the cost of fairness, development, and cohesion. Gabriel, a third-round pick with glaring limitations, was handed the keys while Sanders, by all accounts, the better quarterback, was pushed to the background. No competition, no rotation, no plan to alternate starts. Just a one-way endorsement of a flawed pick. SK speaking, and that's where it all falls apart. According to King, the Browns' refusal to give Shedeur a legitimate shot isn't just poor management. It's organizational ego running the entire operation. It's self-preservation disguised as leadership. And it's tearing the team apart from the inside. Because let's be clear, Gabriel wasn't a shocking first-round risk. He was a third-round gamble. A player with physical ceilings, undersized, limited arm strength, spotty accuracy, and yet somehow he became the franchise's hill to die on. Why? Because admitting he's not ready would mean admitting they got it wrong. And in Cleveland right now, that's not allowed. So they keep him out there, and they keep Shedeur off the field. That decision? It's not just unfair, it's dysfunctional. King calls it out as a textbook example of how poor quarterback evaluation and unchecked ego can destroy a franchise from the top down. Because when leadership refuses to adjust, everyone loses. The locker room sees it. Morale drops. Guys start playing for themselves, not for each other. Team cohesion breaks down. And soon enough, the culture collapses entirely. And that's exactly where the Browns are headed. Shaun King's criticism is rooted in one undeniable fact. The Browns' entire process is flawed. They misjudge the draft. They misread their own roster. And now they're compounding that error by refusing to course correct. DG NFL match photos. Instead of fostering a quarterback competition, they've created a lopsided narrative. One where Gabriel is the chosen one, and Shedeur, despite a stronger resume at every level, is treated like a project or worse, a backup option they never really wanted. And the Browns can't hide behind development timelines. That excuse doesn't work when your starter is struggling. This isn't a case of protecting a confident veteran. This is about doubling down on a bad call. Gabriel is floundering. The offense isn't producing. The team isn't winning. And still, Shedeur can't get a start. That's not development. That's denial. And the cost? It's rising. King points to a locker room that's already disengaged. Players are reportedly more focused on their next contract than their next game. The message is clear. If performance doesn't matter, then what are they even competing for? That's what happens when accountability is replaced with politics. And it doesn't just affect quarterbacks. It affects everybody. Because when players see that talent and effort aren't rewarded, they stop trusting leadership. They stop buying in. And once that's gone, you're not coaching a team. You're managing chaos. SS in preseason match sideline. Shaun King says it plainly. This kind of dysfunction, this resistance to accountability, doesn't just delay progress, it destroys it. But here's the kicker. This entire mess might actually work out in favor of Shedeur Sanders. Because by being benched, he's being shielded from the toxicity, from the broken play calling, from the mounting losses, from being blamed for a situation he didn't create. As Gabriel continues to struggle and the Browns continue to lose, Shedeur's stock actually rises without even playing. Fans are already asking questions. Analysts are wondering why he hasn't gotten a chance. And inside that building, even the most loyal Gabriel supporters are starting to feel the walls closing in. SS new match photos. And when the Browns finally make the switch, and they will, it won't be about giving the rookie a shot. It'll be about salvaging what's left of the season. Lower pressure, lower expectations, and the chance to shine without being scapegoated. That's the irony Shaun King points out. By stubbornly refusing to give Shedeur a chance early, they might have actually protected him from the storm. When his time finally comes, he'll be walking into a cleaner narrative, one where he's the solution, not the problem. And he is the solution. That's the part the Browns refuse to acknowledge. King doesn't just think Sanders is better than Gabriel. He says it's objectively true. Better in high school, better in college, better skill set, better feel for the game. And yet, here we are, watching a clearly inferior quarterback get all the opportunities. AB speaking, for what? To protect the front office's fragile ego? That's the organizational flaw that King keeps hammering home. The Browns aren't failing because they lack talent. They're failing because they can't let go of a bad decision. They're more focused on defending the past than building the future. That's how franchises get stuck in endless cycles of mediocrity. Bad evaluations happen, but refusing to correct them? That's where the rot sets in. King also points out that Cleveland isn't alone. Teams across the league, from Arizona to San Francisco, are dealing with quarterback uncertainty. But the difference? Those teams are trying. They're adjusting, rotating, reevaluating. SK speaking, Cleveland's problem is that they're not doing anything. They're frozen, stubborn, still clinging to the idea that Gabriel is somehow going to magically evolve into a starter worth building around. But that's not going to happen. And every week they wait, the damage multiplies. The longer they deny Shedeur Sanders a shot, the more credibility they lose. With fans, with media, with players. And when internal collapse finally hits, when leadership changes come, and the biggest question won't be why did it fail? It'll be, why didn't they fix it when they had the chance? Shaun King is ringing the alarm bell before that moment hits, because there is still time to turn this around. KS speaking, the Browns can course correct. They can admit the Gabriel pick didn't pan out. They can rebuild trust in the locker room by showing that talent actually matters. They can give Shedeur the start he's earned and let the chips fall where they may. But if they don't, then this becomes something worse than a failed draft. It becomes a failed franchise, one that knowingly buried a better player to protect a weaker one that built around ego, not evaluation, one that actively delayed its own success out of fear. And no one wants to play for that. So what happens now? Does Stefanski admit the mistake? Does the front office pivot before it's too late? Or do they ride this out until the wheels come off completely? KS Master Collection, because that's where this is heading. And when it does, everyone's going to remember how obvious it was, and how the Browns still couldn't get out of their own way. Let us know what you think. Should Shedeur have been starting from day one? Or is Cleveland still in denial about who their best quarterback really is? Drop your take in the comments. Like this if you're tired of watching teams ruin talent for the sake of pride. Share it with someone who's been calling this out all season. And subscribe, because if the Browns keep this up, we'll be back here very soon. SK speaking, at this point, it's almost like watching a slow-motion car crash that everybody saw coming but no one bothered to stop. The Cleveland Browns, with all the subtlety of a brick through glass, have taken what should have been a promising quarterback situation and turned it into a full-blown spectacle of dysfunction. And now, because they refuse to admit they made a mistake, Shedeur Sanders is stuck in a holding pattern, while Dylan Gabriel, who shouldn't have been in this position to begin with, is unraveling in real time. And Shaun King, he's had enough. He's not just calling it out, he's torching the entire operation. According to King, the Browns aren't just guilty of poor evaluation. They're actively sabotaging Shedeur Sanders' career to protect their own pride. He doesn't suggest it. He says it outright. Deliberate sabotage. A calculated refusal to let the better quarterback compete, because doing so would expose just how wrong they were about the one they drafted. DG NFL match photos. Dylan Gabriel was never supposed to be a long-term solution. Third-round quarterbacks don't come with franchise expectations. They're developmental, backup-tier projects. Yet for some reason, some ego-driven, job-preserving reason, Gabriel was fast-tracked past Sanders, and now the whole organization is paying for it. And the most frustrating part? It's not like Gabriel is playing well and forcing the issue. He's not. He's inconsistent. He's inaccurate. He's not commanding the huddle. He's not making the throws that matter. And still, he gets the nod every single week. While Shedeur Sanders sits, waits, and watches, that's not development. That's dereliction. It's one thing to trust your process. It's another to watch your process crumble, publicly, week after week, and refuse to change a single thing, because admitting the error feels worse than losing games. SS practicing, that's where Cleveland is right now. Losing not just on the field, but off it. Losing credibility, losing the locker room, losing the fan base's patience, and potentially losing the one player who could actually make a difference. Shaun King sees the writing on the wall. Everyone else does too. And it's not like Shedeur Sanders hasn't earned a real opportunity. Let's be clear, he's not some unproven wild card. He's a polished, smart, pro-ready quarterback with leadership skills and a resume that trumps Gabriel's at every stage. High school, college, intangibles, tape. It's not close. And yet, none of that matters to Browns, because the moment they picked Gabriel first, they committed themselves to a narrative, and now they're doing everything in their power to make that narrative stick, even if it means tanking the team's trajectory. SS and preseason match sideline, and here's where it gets really twisted. The more they fail, the better it gets for Sanders. Think about it. Every loss under Gabriel makes the Browns look more foolish. Every stalled drive, every missed opportunity, every sideline meltdown, it all paints a clearer picture that the wrong guy is under center. And meanwhile, Shedeur stays untouched by it all. He's not tied to the failure. He's not taking the heat. He's not being blamed. When, not if, the Browns finally give in and hand in the reins, it won't be under pressure. It'll be under desperation. The bar will be low. The fans will be begging for change. And all Shedeur will have to do is stabilize the chaos to look like the savior. The same kid they didn't trust? He'll become the last hope. But that's not some grand master plan. That's not strategy. That's dumb luck born from organizational failure. And it raises the question, why does Shedeur have to wait for everything to collapse before he gets a shot? Why can't they just do the right thing now? That's Shaun King's point. The situation is broken because the people making decisions are more committed to being not wrong than they are to actually getting it right. It's classic organizational ego, the kind that turns a bad pick into a multi-month disaster, the kind that refuses to course-correct even when the signs are blaring in red. And when you operate from that mindset, when every decision is about protecting the past instead of building the future, you don't just stall development. You poison it. You create an environment where talent is treated like a threat instead of an asset. Right now, the Browns are telling everyone in that building that being chosen matters more than being ready, that timing matters more than talent, that loyalty to a mistake is more important than the success of the team. And players see that. They feel it. That's why morale is slipping. That's why the locker room is disengaged. That's why guys are looking out for themselves instead of buying into something bigger. Because when the message from the top is that fairness takes a back seat to face saving, no one sticks around. And Shaun King's take isn't just about quarterbacks. It's about the identity of the team. Right now, that identity is chaos. There's no accountability, no meritocracy, No urgency. Just a stubborn insistence that the front office knows best, even when all the evidence says otherwise. And the irony? If they had alternated starts, if they'd given Shedeur even one opportunity to show what he'd do, this whole thing might have gone differently. The team might have had clarity. The coaches might have earned trust. The players might have bought in. And maybe, just maybe, the Browns would be in a better place right now. Sideline, but instead they dug in. They picked their guy. And they shut the door on anyone who challenged that decision, including a quarterback with better tape, better tools, and a higher ceiling. And now they're trapped. They can't sell Gabriel as a future. They can't keep Shedeur buried forever. And the longer they delay the inevitable, the worse it gets. When the switch finally happens, and make no mistake, it will happen, it won't be because they were bold. It'll be because they ran out of excuses. SS press conference, and when that day comes, the only question will be, does Shedeur still want to be part of it? Because here's the thing, he's not stuck. He has options. Other teams are watching this unfold, and they know what's happening. They know he's being held back. And if the Browns keep him benched long enough, they'll start lining up for the chance to give him the opportunity Cleveland refused. At some point, the Browns aren't just risking losses. They're risking losing Shedeur for good. And that would be the most Cleveland thing ever. Ruining their own future to protect a mistake that was never worth defending in the first place. Here's the cold truth. If Shedeur Sanders ever becomes a starting quarterback for Cleveland Browns, it won't be because the organization believed in him. It'll be because they ran out of options. And that's the most damning part of all this. Shaun King didn't just throw shade. He pulled the curtain back on how deep the dysfunction in Cleveland runs. This isn't just about playing favorites. It's not even just about bad evaluation. It's about what happens when an organization lets ego completely override logic. AB speaking. Let's not sugarcoat it. The Browns made a horrible call in the draft. Taking Dillon Gabriel in the third round over Shedeur Sanders wasn't just a misstep. It was one of the most head-scratching decisions in the entire 2025 class. A pick rooted in flawed analysis, overly optimistic projections, and, if King's right, some very real internal politics. Gabriel's weaknesses were obvious. Limited size, questionable velocity, inconsistent accuracy. He looked solid on paper in college, but the tape never screamed NFL ready. Certainly not over Shedeur, who had already proven he could handle pressure, read defenses, and deliver in big moments. You know, things that actually matter in professional football. And yet, here we are. Cleveland didn't just pick the wrong guy. They doubled down on it. They gave Gabriel the starter's job without a real competition. They never rotated. Never gave Shedeur a shot to prove them wrong. Why? Because doing that would mean someone in that building has to say, "We messed up." And in Cleveland, apparently, that's a worse outcome than losing. But while the front office stays busy protecting its narrative, the rest of the team is stuck in limbo. Shaun King wasn't just speaking for Shedeur. He was speaking for everyone watching this unfold. Because when talent isn't rewarded and mistakes are protected, that doesn't just impact quarterbacks. It eats at the foundation of the team. You got a locker room full of professionals who know exactly what's happening. They see Gabriel struggling. They see Sanders outperforming him in practice. They see management turn a blind eye. And if you think that kind of selective blindness doesn't affect the vibe in the building, think again. It kills morale. It sends a message that nothing you do really matters unless you were the right pick in the right round by the right person. SS in preseason match sideline. That kind of culture is toxic. That's how you lose the room. That's how guys start playing selfishly, checking out mentally, looking toward free agency with a shrug. Because why buy into a plan that's not built on merit? And this is where things go from disappointing to embarrassing. The Browns aren't just stalling Shedeur Sanders' development. They're actively wasting it. You only get so much time in this league to grow into a starter. Those reps, that game speed, that learning curve, you can't replicate it from the sidelines. And yet, Cleveland has chained Sanders to a clipboard, so they don't have to admit Gabriel isn't the guy. They're sacrificing one player's trajectory to preserve another's illusion of potential. SS practicing, and if that doesn't infuriate you, it should. Because the truth is, Sanders is the one with the higher ceiling. That's not even up for debate at this point. He's a smarter decision-maker, a better passer, a more composed leader. And somehow, he's the one being sidelined. What King is arguing, what so many people are starting to realize, is that Cleveland has reached a point where they're so committed to the myth of Dillon Gabriel, they'd rather go down with the ship than let someone else take the wheel. But here's where the Browns are setting themselves up for a second mistake. AB speaking. Because when this all comes crashing down, and they're going to turn to Sanders not as a plan, but as a bailout, a last resort. And when he walks onto that field, after weeks or months of being ignored, he'll be expected to clean up the mess he didn't make. And what happens if it doesn't go perfectly right away? You already know the playbook. The same people who bench him to protect their bad draft pick will start whispering that he wasn't ready, that maybe he's not the answer either, that they tried both options and it just didn't work. And just like that, they'll rewrite the history they created. One where Sanders wasn't sabotaged, he just didn't show enough. That's how these narratives get built, not through performance, but through perception. And Shaun King is trying to stop that story before it takes hold. He's calling out the sabotage now, loudly, publicly, because if no one says anything, the people responsible for this dysfunction get to walk away clean, while a player like Shedeur is left with the wreckage. This entire saga is a warning to every player, every fan, every franchise. When leadership values optics over honesty, everybody loses. And unless something changes fast, the Browns are about to learn that the hard way. CB fans photos, let us know where you stand. Should Sanders still be waiting for his chance? Or should he already be under center? Sound off in the comments. Hit like if you're done watching raw talent get buried by bad decisions. And subscribe so you don't miss what's next. Because with the Browns, the collapse is always just one Sunday away.